Hello there, welcome to another episode of the Shieldcast podcast, where you find the ultimate source for everything cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And this is a continuation of the previous episode.
Yeah. So I think in the previous episode we were able to look at several bodies such as the NSA and also the ones for Israel and
And the
we were able
Britain.
the Britain, and we were able to analyze what they do and the processes that are carried out in that scope of the objectives. Because even if they're all security organizations, the objectives might slightly vary, but also they still have a lot of similarities.
Yeah. So before that, my name is John Dongo. I am a cybersecurity researcher and a software engineer, and this is my co-host.
My name is Kevin Mugo. This is the next session that you've been will take you through, and it's a pleasure.
Yeah. So as we had mentioned in the previous episode, we said that cybercriminals and the terrorists and everyone in the online community has become increasingly powerful.
Yeah.
And these criminals are using complex technologies that kind of self-shield themselves from the international or the law enforcement agencies. So it has become maybe a concern or maybe a point where governments have to form these agencies to help curb cybersecurity crimes.
Yeah, and also there's the aspect of, because they are cultures, let's call them trends, because the way attackers work in the New Zealand, like we look at how things work on that side, and the way things work in UK or US, they have totally different routes, and you find that each government agency that focuses on securing the infrastructure, what is there in the country, it's slightly different, but the objectives are almost the same.
Yeah. Hence the need for this government to create their agencies that are focused in the protecting the critical infrastructure in their own countries.
Sure.
Yeah, so that is the second part of this episode. Yeah, welcome, let's dig in. So yeah, the Government Communication Security Bureau of New Zealand, and we see that this one is a part of the National Intelligence Agency of the New Zealand.
Yeah.
And one similarity of this, and it focuses with signal intelligence.
Yeah.
And we mentioned this in the NSA.
Yeah. So we talked about this in the previous episode, but just as a summary, it's just like that kind of sequential activities that are usually done that maybe give trails or leads to some incident. So that's one of the principles that they use, and they also have information assurance along with them.
Yeah, similarly to the NSA.
Whereby they try to find the best way to secure something, so that even if an incident happens, it may be fully prevented, or if there is an impact, it's very minimal. And if the impact is there, also the second thing is that there is a recovery strategy to counter it. For example, consulting third parties, say we've been attacked or something of the sort, or having internal mechanisms of recovery.
So not solely an independent agency, but works hand in hand with that organization to ensure that all the factors from critical infrastructure and the economy of New Zealand is in good hands. So the government, this agency was formed with regard to an act in around 2003, and
but it was initially they started, I think, in
1977. But that act came, I think, into being a law around in 2003.
Yes.
So this, similarly to the NSA and the GCHQ and all those that we have mentioned in the previous episodes, I think it focuses on the well-being of New Zealand. And as you mentioned, I think at the start of this episode, governments need to create these organizations which are specific to them, because the cybercrime tactics of UK are not similar to the cybercrimes of maybe New Zealand or in Africa.
Yeah. And also one good thing about this organization is that they have a very diverse and rich way of intercepting electronic messages. When they're doing the investigation, I think they have great communication with the service providers, especially when it comes to communication. And also there's the aspect of internet. And also there is the provision of advice to government agencies, so that if anything happens to some kind of organization also, there's a countermeasure to it. And also they've partnered with the Five Eyes, whereby we consider it more of a tripartite or a group of countries that work together to curb the cyber crimes that happen in the countries. I think the Five Eyes is composed of Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, and the US. So through this association, you'll find that most probably there's a crime that happened in US, but in some way or another it is connected to UK. So instead of now having these international relation issues when it comes to solving a case, there is a structured methodology that regardless of the difference in countries, there is a way that this case can be handled. You know, because we've also been seeing them, especially from the encounters that I've been having, that if a phone is stolen in the US, you'll find that this person, even if the phone is in Kenya maybe, the person can still see, hey, this phone is in Kenya. So from there you start building or trying to see within your network, so next step would you take, because you're seeing that maybe the phone is in Kenya, or maybe even vehicles, you know. So these are some of the things that are happening, so that it cannot be that because you are in a different country or location, you are free from the law. But there are other countries that when you get into, you cannot be taken out. I think in the Caribbean or so, they have such characteristics. Because I think it's also a big relationship issue between US and Mexico, whereby if you just cross into, but I'm not sure that the law had changed, but that's how I left it as. If you cross into Mexico, you'll find that you might
extradition will now be impossible.
Yeah.
So I think you mentioned this in the global cybersecurity or global criminal gangs, and in I think the previous episode, and we mentioned that these gangs, including what we mentioned last, that they are decentralized, and it's kind of hard to know the nationality of one group or relate it to one country. And with that regard, I think the Five Eyes, the coordination of these 5 countries will help curb that. Because if you cannot affiliate this group ABC with a particular country, it will be easier if there is a coordination between 5 countries. It will be easier to curb them.
And more is yet to come, because you have also seen government organizations partnering together, and if not going through the partnership way, there are other external parties that they can reach out. For example, you have the Interpol, and also there's the Europol. There's also the Hague, but Hague is on the low side. But now when it comes to maybe the digital side, when it comes to technology, organizations such as Interpol and Europol form a good form of communication or so. And I think from the previous episode, we had also said that the chain between UK and Europol, when it comes to that communication, is their government intelligence agency. So that's now how these things are connected to in a global level.
We have seen multiple organizations maybe in a country come together and form a cybersecurity agency. I think a good example of that is the Global Cybersecurity Agency that was formed by, I think, the New York State Department, but we're not going to talk about that agency for today. But this was a good example where other similar law enforcement organizations come together and they form a security agency to kind of bring all the resources together to ensure that online information is safe and secure. So that is it, I think, for New Zealand. And I think next we're going to talk about the Australian Cybersecurity Center. So we are going to go to Australia. Responsible for maintaining a good cybersecurity posture in Australia, I think the Australia Cybersecurity Center has played a very great role. And I think in this field, let me interrupt you, before you mentioned that, I think in this field, the good thing about cybersecurity is there are enough people who tend to kind of give you information and help you to improve your online security. And this organization, I think, can be mentioned as one of the greatest to help organizations in other sectors to maintain and improve their security posture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we've been able to witness that from the Australian side, it's also more of an open-ended communication strategy, like a learning point that in case an attack happens, if we cannot maybe do it, there's a way it can be handled, and that's now where the global partnerships come in. I think it now also with the Five Eyes, as we had also discussed. So it's also another dimension that is now connecting our previous government body to now the Australian Cybersecurity Center. Yeah.
So similarly, I think to all the maybe other, I know the Australian Cybersecurity Center focuses on raising awareness, but I think its efforts are it's easier to attribute the efforts to raise awareness to this Australia Cybersecurity Center than to other organizations, the NSA. They do have their campaigns, but I think one great task that this Cybersecurity Center of Australia has done is to try and create this awareness of cybersecurity and the importance of maintaining a good cybersecurity posture of your organization, no matter the size or the whole nation.
So they are trying to balance between international and local, with the aspect of trying to teach people as much as possible, because as much as we are trying to solve issues, if we would focus on now the preventive bit, number one, will save on resources. We will not need a lot of human or workload or so. The workload will be like reduced, and also I think it's one of the most unique bodies that you have seen that they're also trying to focus on not only investigating but also providing training. Up to this point, I think it's the only one. There might be others, but this one has been put more into the limelight when it comes to the provision of trainings to people in their countries.
So before we go to maybe the last sections of this episode, maybe a word from our sponsors. So this podcast is brought to you by the Fallings Entertainment and the Coding and Kahawa Developers Community. So the Coding and Kahawa Developers Community, it's a online community where you can find help in the tech field, whether in data science, cybersecurity, robotics, anything, you mention it. So it's a community that helps you grow and nurture your talents in the tech field, and you can find mentors and people you learn with, and you can find that guidance that you need to prosper in the tech industry. And Funlinks Entertainment. So this is where you can bring your kids. I normally say bring them and train them early. So you can bring your kid and let them start early in the tech field, in robotics, in data science for kids, and in cybersecurity and all that stuff.
Sure.
So we're going to head straight to our next section, and this will be the last section of this episode.
We'll go to Canada.
Canada. So the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity, and I believe among all the organizations we're talking about, I believe this one is the youngest.
I think it was first initialized in 2018, of which I'm sure that even before they came into being, there was, let's not call it an interim, but an existing organization that was still there in order to manage cybercrime issues in the country, or maybe it was formed out of a deviation or a subgroup from a main group, just to specialize it.
To specialize in cybersecurity.
Because if you're talking about 2018, it would be considered, if you may say, like too late to come up with an organization by the time you set up the infrastructure and you find the right people to meet the needs that are required to fit in that space.
So although it's founded in 2018, but this Center for Cybersecurity in Canada, it's also responsible to ensure that the cybersecurity infrastructure for both especially the Canadian government as a whole and the critical infrastructures of Canada have a good security posture.
Sure. And they also operate under the Communication Security Establishment. That's the CSE. And that's like the main characteristic of this government cybersecurity bodies. There's someone that they report to.
They're
not
part
really,
of a globe.
Not really as someone, but there's another organization above it. For example, in the one that we covered in the US, there's a tied connection between 17 different organizations that now report to under one organization. So that's like the sequence because of that aspect of accountability and trying to maintain that posture of professionalism, so that when an issue comes up from the country's side, these people are trusted that they're able to handle these issues. Yeah.
You find that this most of these organizations, they are part of maybe the national intelligence agency of that particular country.
Yes.
More of a branch that reports to the national intelligence because cyber security is a critical part.
Yeah.
And there is this book, it's called the fifth domain, because as you know, there are four main domains that many people kind of think that they are the best or the most critical domains in the sea, the space, the land, and the air. So the cyber security has been termed as the fifth domain because actually, and I believe it demands a lot of attention because it's a critical domain. And yeah, I can recommend that book. It's called The Fifth Domain. I don't remember the author.
I think I'll try to write a book on data as the sixth domain.
I agree because as I said, I think in the previous section, the data is it's the new fuel.
Like, because without data you cannot have security.
Yeah, true.
So
true.
if, as much as you're trying to add the fifth domain to the list, I don't mind making a sixth one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's a
So the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity, we mentioned that the previous one, the Australian one. So we mentioned it as an agency that is focused on raising awareness, and yet again we come across the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity, which also focuses on raising awareness of cybersecurity and ensuring that government organizations and also private sector or organizations in the private sectors and also individuals have this knowledge on how to protect their online networks and infrastructure.
Yeah, so also another thing with this body is that just like the Australian one does, is that they're also trying to put a lot of focus when it comes to training people in ethics, how to handle incidents and the rest. Because we just said that it will be much easier to prevent than to handle an incident. Because there are a lot of incidents that when it comes to handling, it might be a challenge. Cases might not be closed or conclusions might not be made, maybe due to substantial evidence or so. But if you'd have invested in now the training of people, you will find that you will be able to minimize on these hassles and bustles. Not saying that they will not be there, but the intensity will reduce.
Yeah. So I believe we have covered the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity well, and I believe this one leads to us to the end of this episode. So that has been Shieldcast podcast, and that has been the cybersecurity organization. I believe stay tuned for what comes next. I believe we are going to diverse a little bit here and there, but anyway, stay tuned. So I have been your host, George Ndomo.
And I'm Kevin Mugo. It's been a pleasure sharing with all of you.
So be sure to kind of to